Thinking about being an English teacher online? Yeah, it's a good idea, but please watch this video as I go through all the basics of everything that I've learned in the last 12 years teaching English online one-to-one. A good one-to-one tutoring or English class online is going to contain some serious work between you and the student. You're also going to need to give your students some academic advice or any tips that you can give them about how to improve their English language skills, and some friendly chat or conversation. But don't get too friendly. So it's so great to finally meet you. It's nice to meet you too. And do you have a girlfriend? My girlfriend? And what's her name? So the first point I want to focus on in this video is mix it up. Now, when I say mix it up, what I mean is that you need to make sure that you're doing a variety of activities. And when I say a variety of activities, I'm also referring to a variety of skills. 4 skills we practice when we're teaching English are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Now, the vast majority of students usually want to practice their speaking and listening, but you can also practice their reading and writing skills in an online English class. When you decide to do speaking practice with your students, make sure you're not repeating the same activity over and over again. There are lots of different ways you can test the speaking skills of your student. So obviously there's the typical question and answer sessions that you can do with your student, but also think about doing role plays. And this means that you as the teacher are going to need to take on the role of somebody in that role play. This means you may need to get out of your comfort zone and be a bit silly. Okay, Pedro, we're going to do a role play activity, okay? And what I thought today is that imagine that you're in a hotel and you have to call room service for something to eat or something to drink. Okay, let's do role play. Sí, role play. Venga. So you're going to call me and you're going to ask for something to eat or to drink. Whatever you want, Pedro. It's up to you. ¿Cuál es el número? Sorry? What's the number? The phone number? The number for room service? 113? Okay. No hungry. Lunch. Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't want to call room service. No. I know you're not hungry or thirsty, but I think for this role play to work, you're gonna need to eat or drink something. Okay. Well, maybe I can order a sandwich. Okay, good. Hello, room service? Hello, room service. How may I help you? I'm a sandwich. You can also try practicing presentation skills. So get your student to prepare a presentation and give the presentation in class. While the student is practicing the presentation, you can make any corrections to any pronunciation problems, vocabulary problems, or grammar problems that you can review later. When you practice listening skills, then don't just use the audio from the course book that you are working on. Think about incorporating other media, things like podcasts, videos, or even listening to a story told by you, the teacher. Incorporating all these different ways of listening to English will improve their overall comprehension skills. The same goes for reading. Reading does not have to take place within the course book that you're using, for example. There are lots of online resources that you can use that are free. If you don't know about those, go and check them out right here. If you can recommend a book to your student, then why not recommend a book for your student to read while you're teaching them, and you can check in with them on how they're finding the book and what difficult vocabulary they're coming across while reading that book. And finally, with writing, encourage your student to practice their writing whenever possible. If you're having to communicate with your student via email, make sure they're writing all emails to you in English. And with other writing activities, get them to practice different formats and different types of writing. Maybe get them to write a short story. Get them to write their CV, maybe for an upcoming interview. Ask them to write a news article. Maybe even ask them to write a review of the last film they went to see or the last restaurant they went to eat at. Point 2 I want to focus on is start strong. Make sure that at the beginning of the class, you are doing the piece of work that is most difficult or most important. This is usually because your student at the beginning of the class has the most energy and is paying the most attention. Try to avoid spending the first 15 to 20 minutes on informal chat or conversation. So if you're going to do a reading task, or perhaps you're going to look into the functions of a tense in English, then make sure you do this first. Use the end of the class to play those games that you love playing with your students, or even to review vocabulary or grammar in a fun way. This is better than at the end because a student will be ready for it then, not at the beginning. Okay, so we've got 10 to 15 minutes left. Okay, let's talk about how we use the present perfect.
Present perfect?
Number 3 is show progress. When you're the English teacher, your students want to know how they are making progress with you. So you need to demonstrate to them how they are improving. I'm going to make another video on how to do your first class with an online student one-to-one, which I'm going to post right here. And in this video, I talk about how to do a level test at the beginning of your first class. If you do a level test with your student, then you have a benchmark to start with, and you can easily compare all the improvements you make during the classes with you against that benchmark, so the student can see that they are improving. A great way to show that your students are improving is that every time you introduce new vocabulary to the class, show your students what level that vocabulary is. Now, when I talk about levels, I'm referring to the Common European Framework reference. Basically, what it is levels A1 to C2, A1 being beginner and C2 being advanced. And there are these two websites which show you the level of every single word in the English language. Well, there are some that are not there, but don't worry. If I have a student, for example, who is a B1 level, and I'm starting to introduce vocabulary that is a B2 or C1 level, I always get a great reaction from the student, and they feel like they are improving. I then take that new vocabulary and I put it on a platform like Quizlet. If you're not familiar with Quizlet, Quizlet is a tool that we can use, like flashcards, to practice and review new vocabulary with your students. I like using Quizlet because it's nice and formal and it's good for adult classes. Another way to show students that they're progressing is by doing writing tasks. A great skill that you can teach your students is self-assessment. I go into this in another video right here. And in this video, I talk about how you can use these online text checkers to check the global level of a text. Now, how you can use this with your student to show progress is by inputting the writing work into these checkers and showing the student the global level of the text. Make a record of this, and every time they submit a new piece of writing, put it back into a checker and see if the level has improved. You can also ask your student to start incorporating some of this new vocabulary that you've identified as being higher level. The final point I want to touch on is ending the lesson. It's so important that before you end the lesson, that you give a student an idea about what is going to happen in the next lesson. Talk a little bit about what you achieved today so that the student ends the class feeling like, yeah, I did something today, I achieved something today. And also give the student an idea of what to expect in the next class. This demonstrates to the student that you have everything planned and everything organized, even if you probably don't. So teacher, what are we gonna do in the next class? In the next class, in the next class, we are going to continue with the next class is going to be great. You're going to love it because we're going to be doing all the things that you want to do, Pedro.
I think he doesn't know what he's doing.
We're going to be looking at the weather.
Pero nada.
Talking about the weather.
Y él piensa que yo soy el tonto.
If you feel that the next class is going to be particularly challenging for your student, why not give them some homework or some activities that's going to help them prepare for that class? If the student can see that they're making progress with you, and that they can also see that the future classes are planned and organized, then that student is much more likely to continue with you over the long term. So to recap, These are the 4 things you need to do. You need to make sure that you're mixing it up so you have a variety of activities going on in your classroom. You need to start each class strong, so do the most difficult task first. You then need to show progress to your student. And finally, end every lesson by showing the student what they achieved in that class and also what's ahead in the future. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps you when you come to teach English online one-to-one. See you later.